story for you today. I'm going to tell the story about the time that I went down to Wrigley Field to watch a Cubs game about a year ago, and there was a bit of an unforeseen circumstance, an unfortunate event, you might call it. But without further ado, man, let's get this going. So, big long-time Cubs fan, Bears, Cubs, Bulls, big Chicago guy. I went down to one of the Cubs games last year with my friend, and I had known that this was going to be kind of an all-day escapade, and all day, we usually like to hit the bars, we like to get some food, we're not just going down there for the game, essentially. All right, so knowing that, I knew that I had to get up early in the next morning, so I got, a super good night's sleep, and I didn't go out or anything. Wrong. I went out Friday night. It was a Saturday 1 o'clock game. I went out Friday night, I don't know, let's say until like 1, 2 in the morning, and I had to be up at 9 the next day, which, it isn't too bad if you think about it. However, I drank myself under the table that Friday night. With that being said, I wake up in the morning not feeling the hottest. What do I do to kind of, you're not feeling the hottest in the morning after you got to keep the day going? Hair of the dog, all right? I had kind of already thought that this was going to be the case, so I prepared and I bought myself a 6-pack of 16-ounce Coors Lights, and I threw them in the fridge, thinking my buddy would want maybe 1, 2, or 3, or whatever, we'd split it. So he picks me up. We get down to the train station, and we're going to, take it to Union Station, and I offer him a beer or two. We're waiting. No thanks, he says. I'm like, all right, great. More for me. So I proceed. Yeah, honestly, I'm going to be real. I'm pretty sure I only brought 4 because I kind of knew bringing all 6 would be a shit show because there's no way that I drank 6. But I do remember downing at least 4 of them. And I remember it was all weird because I put them in a plastic bag. And by the time we had driven 20 minutes to the train station, the plastic bag had gotten all condensated and the beers inside were lukewarm at that point. So I was drinking these lukewarm 16-ounce Coors Lights that I choked to get down. But hell, I got the job done. So we pop out of Union Station, walking through. I'm a little bit tipsy. It's 10:30 in the fucking morning, which is a little bit early to kind of get on that type of wave. However, it's a Cubs game, so I'm justifying it. Anyways, get out of Union Station. We Uber to Wrigley Field, or right outside of Wrigley Field. We go to a bar first called the Cubby Bear. Now, after the 4 16 ounces that I had, me and my buddy, he finally starts drinking. We start to get going and have a little bit more. I think I have anywhere from 6 in me, Not, I had 2 there, 4 in the, I got about 6 going. Go to another bar. We meet up with 2 of his friends. Now, I'm honestly, at first, I kind of didn't realize that we were going to be meeting up with this many people. So it's 2 people that we met up with, and it's me and my buddy. 4 people, right? We then meet up with another 5, 6, 7 people. So there's a group of I think it was 10 or 11 of us. And coincidentally, we had all seats next to each other. I didn't know this. I kind of thought, it was like one of those, hey, you want to go to the Cubs game with me and some friends? Cool, sure. Didn't know it was going to be 11 people. Didn't really matter. However, by the time we got into the game, I, of course, grabbed 2 beers, on the way to the seat. I'm pretty drunk. I'm pretty tipsy. It's 1:20. Game start. The first pitch. Oh. My buddy's drinking, too. Everybody's having a good time. We're watching the Cubs. It was Kyle Hendricks' last start as well. So, we had to go all out for the guy. I'm a pitcher's guy. We had to go all out. Glad we got to see that happen. Now, at some point, I kind of realized that I was going to need some food in me. I can't be drinking like this all day. So I decided to, take a little venture, go find some cheeseburger, some hot dogs, see what they had. I ended up getting a burger, hot dog, some peanuts, some water. I just stuffed it all in, dude. Feeling a little bit better. By that time, I can't recall every second of, I can't tell you every detail of the game, but by that time I kind of sober, it's about the 6th inning, dude. Watch the rest of the game. Kyle Hendricks stops pitching in the 7th, I believe. He did phenomenal. I'm pretty sure we won that game. It was beautiful to see. Fast forward a little bit, we leave the game after the win. We're like, yeah, we're all hyped. Party's not over. Let's head across the street to another bar. All right? Now we're drinking, and the numbers are starting to get up there. This is where you're like, I think I've had 5, 6, 7. You can't remember. And me and my one buddy, I don't know a lot of these people either, which is kind of funny because I'm getting just hammered and hey, I'm his friend. They're like, yeah, your friend's an idiot. Anyways, getting hammered in front of a bunch of random people, which turned out to be some solid people by the end of the night. But we start throwing them back, and we go back to the Cubby Bear, and we're throwing them back there, and then we go to this place called Sluggers, which is, if you don't know Sluggers, it's a really cool bar. It's got an upstairs and a downstairs. There's like 3 bars in the place, and there's batting cages on the second story. So I didn't do it this time, but it's always fun to go hammered trying to hit some baseballs, which I love baseball. I still, I play a little bit frequently, so in the men's league, but still, man, I couldn't. I was not doing it that time, man. Couldn't see shit. Anyways, Sluggers is where it starts to get a little bit off the chain, if you will. At some point, we had switched to vodka Red Bulls. No more Coors Lights, right? We're trying to stay awake. We're trying to keep going. Vodka Red Bulls. Boom. My buddy starts to drink more than he should have. But I'm like, who am I to talk, dude? I've had 10 Coors Lights and 2 vodka Red Bulls at this point. I'm keeping my own. At some point, dude, he's starting to get pretty tipsy, going up to people. Not in a bad way, but like, hey, nice shirt, man. Let's go, Cubbies. And walking away, And I'm kind of following him, making sure there's 100 to 200 people in this bar, dude. He's not really sticking out like a sore thumb yet. We had decided to call it a night at some point around maybe 9, 10 o'clock. I try to gather my buddy. He comes with us. He is really stumbling out of this place, and so am I, and so is the other guy. So we're just kind of laughing. We got like 4 people kind of holding each other up all at once. You know what I mean? And after we get halfway down the block, my buddy goes, hey, man, I gotta sit down for a second. And we're in front of this, it was a Starbucks or a Chick-fil-A, I believe, and he kind of just leans against the glass of the Starbucks, which immediately, people inside, he kind of didn't lean, and people were like, what the hell? So I'm like, all right, let's get on, let's get out of here, let's get back to the train, and that's when I noticed that his face had slumped down, and he had slowly started to slide down the window of this Starbucks or Chick-fil-A, again, I couldn't tell you. And oh shit, I realized, yeah, he's passed out. He just blacked out. Now, I've lived in a suburb outside of the city for a while. I've frequented the city my entire life. But it's not, it's not a normal thing for even in this Chicago where, your friend blacks out and he's, there's people walking around, dude, and he's now on the ground and his face is slumped in his lap and it's just a whole situation. And keep in mind, like, this dude is my ride home from the train station, and I am, like, we took the train together and met up with everybody down there, so I'm like, dude, I gotta get this guy home. I felt like it was a bit of my responsibility, and he's my boy, so I'm not gonna try to screw him over. I thought, man, I'm hammered, and I'm thinking, like, dude, I gotta get this guy in an Uber. I gotta somehow get him home. I gotta, I'm planning, I'm plotting, I'm scheming, and there comes a point where I realize that there's probably not gonna, I don't know. I called the Uber, and the Uber driver was like, no, you can't. Like, I'm trying to push him in the car, and I'm like, sir, please, I'll give you $20. Like, I need to get my boy home. Like, I wasn't thinking straight, and I didn't really realize, how much of a nuisance this would be as I'm doing this in front of, honestly, like, 100 people who are inside, outside, walking past. Like, there were people taking videos. I'm like, come on, dude, this is fucking embarrassing. We got to get my boy home. My last attempt at getting him in the Uber didn't go so well as he started to get into like a V position and his ass was touching the curb and half of his body's in the car and his feet are in the air and his shirt's coming up and his fucking wallet's falling. I'm like, okay, fuck. And right when I turn around and kind of realize that we're defeated, a fucking ambulance pulls up. And they like get out, and honestly, so they look like they're kind of our age, and they kind of look at like, dude, what the hell's going on here? And I kind of tell him the situation, and, he lets me know. He's like, we were trying to get Starbucks, and we just pulled up, and there's a guy hanging out of the side of an Uber that's very clearly, and he kind of spit up on himself a little bit. And I'm like, what do you mean? We can get him home? What are you talking about? And they're like, what the no. And they told us, if you can't get him in the Uber in 5 minutes, like, we got to take him. And unfortunately, I couldn't get him in the Uber in 5 minutes. Me and one of his other boys were trying his best. There was one guy there that was being kind of a dickhead. He was like, hey, just let the ambulance fucking take him. And I'm like, all right, bro, clearly you've never been in a situation like this. I was just trying to help him out. Anyways, ambulance, they get him in the ambulance, and I know it's wraps at this point. I'm like, he's gonna have to pay the bill, and I feel bad for the dude, but there's a bit of, when you're stuck in that sort of situation and there's nothing you can do about it. I've always tended to like make, like a laugh about it, and not a laugh, but he's the type of guy that would really appreciate that. So I took a video which he thought was hilarious when he ended up, seeing it. I was like, it's a video of him in the ambulance that's like, he's bouncing around, with the little oxygen mask on and his shirt's up. And what's funny is he's actually an EMS worker himself. So I took a video and I was like, buddy went all out for Kyle Hendricks' start, which the whole him being an EMS worker is hilarious because, I mean, it's what he does for his day job. And one afternoon, he finally felt how a patient felt, passed out there. And he laughs about it now, and he pays the ambulance bill. But unfortunately, that's not completely where the story ends. For his sake, it does. I had to find myself a way to get home. Okay? Now, I did ride in the ambulance with him because I wanted to make sure that I could, I didn't know. I thought I would stay there with him at least overnight, or maybe I would, get an Uber home. I didn't think about it, but honestly, my focus was just on making sure my dude was all right, because clearly he was too, fucked up. And it happens quick, I was talking to him, he was like, I'm drunk, man, and then 10 minutes later, he's, knocked out, unresponsive. And we knew it was just that he blacked out, had too much to drink. He had no medical, no drugs or anything like that. But the situation was still a little bit alarming. With that being said, I kind of stayed in the waiting room, and they wouldn't let me go in his hospital room because he was unresponsive and he was a John Doe, and there was no way, I don't know, it was there was no way for him to confirm who he was other than by his ID, and I was like, I'm his friend. They're like fans, they're like family only, and I was like, come on, let me in there, and they were like, they wouldn't let me in there, so they made me stay in the waiting room, which after an hour, I was like, there's nothing I can do for this guy, he's not waking up, and I had to get home because I was stuck in Chicago, and an Uber from Chicago to where I live is going to be $100. And I still had the all-day train pass. So I'm like, if I can make it to Union Station, which was a 20-minute drive, then I can go there. So I called an Uber, zipped out to the Uber, and I made to Union Station with not a lot of time to spare. When I get into Union Station, I came in from an exit from the hospital, because I came from the hospital, not from the normal way from Wrigley Field. So I came in from a different entrance to Union Station that I've been several times. There was the weirdest thing that I have ever witnessed. It was like there was a Renaissance Fair reenactment inside Union Station. There was not a single person that looked like it was an actual patron of that time era. There was people in 1920, I don't even know what there was 1920s to 1900s attire swinging from the ceiling in top hats. I ran up and I was like, excuse me, sir. And the look he gave me when I said, excuse me, sir, was like, oh, Boulder Dash. Everybody was cosplaying a 20s, and I'm fucking hammered late trying to get to the train. I don't know, man, it was pretty crazy. And I'm running through, and there's people, they have, silhouettes, and they're spinning those, silhouettes in the sky while I'm running through Union Station trying to get, I don't know where the train is. I'm coming from a different direction, as I mentioned before. So I sprinted, and I finally find two police officers who, kudos to them for not flipping out. I'm running towards them as fast as I can, and I just look like a drunk mess, dude. I'm like, sir! And, bro, honestly, I would have, pulled my taser. What the fuck is this guy doing? And where's the train, to where my town? And he tells me, it's right here, bro. And I get on the train, and the second, I'm talking, I had minutes to spare. I get on the train, I get my seat, I sit down, ooh, and 2 minutes later, it's ding, ding, and the train starts getting, and that was quite the train ride home, because I was sobering up on the train. What was beneficial, though, is my buddy dropped his wallet, keys, and his glasses, as well as his vape. So, dude, I had to hit that a little bit on the train. Come on, it's only right, dude. It's gonna go to waste, man. I gotta hit this for you, so... But I don't know. That calmed my nerves a little bit, because I'm leaving without my boy. I'm leaving him in the city. I felt a little bit guilty, even though there's nothing that I could do. Long story short, man, I get home. My other buddy, I'm like, 911, you got to pick me up from the train station. There was an incident. And I ended up telling him the whole story. My other buddy on the way home, dude, he blacked out. I have no ride. And I'm hammered. And I got in the car, and my dude's like, bro, you smell like straight Tito's, which is I'm like, I'm sorry, just take me home. And I get home, and I am so drunk I can't even sleep, dude. I'm tossing and turning. I'm sweating. At about 3 in the morning, he calls me or FaceTimes me with no glasses on. He's like, He's like, dude, what the fuck happened, bro? I woke up in a hospital and this other guy was like, I have no idea where I am. And he was like freaking out. But I don't know, man. That's one of the more fond memories I have of going to Wrigley Field with my buddy. And I think that's because that's just not who he is. He would not ever, that would never happen again. That would have happened to me if anybody, or like one of my other buddies. Like he just is, like I said, EMS worker, upstanding citizen. He just, Kyle Hendricks last game, man, it got the best of him. So, with that being said, every time that I talk to him, and actually my dad coined this phrase when I told him the story, his nickname is now Mr. Bedsheets because he fell asleep on the side of the streets of Chicago, and that was honestly the best nickname anybody could have given him. That was my first story. I hope everybody liked it. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to make it a little bit better next time, so give me some tips. I don't even know if this is going to go however it's going to go. But there's the Mr. Bedsheet story. Thank you. Talk to you later.